Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am your host, Vortex, from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you are new to the channel, what we do here is release weekly videos teaching people how to produce music on their iOS device. And in today's video, we're going to be going over all the latest updates in Cubasis' latest version 3.3, right after this. And remember folks, if you do enjoy this content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Now this is going to be another quick format video where we don't do any type of long intro or any final thoughts or do a live premiere. Now of course we are super stoked over here at Mobile Music Pro about any update that comes for Cubasis, as that is our main DAW of choice over here at the channel. So we're going to go over some of the major features of this update and tell you what we think. But please, we also want to hear what you think as well, so let us know in the comments, do you like these new updates? Is this going to make you switch to Cubasis from your current DAW? And what would you like to see next in the next update? We want to know. Alright, now without further ado, let's get into a few of these update details. Alright, now we have an Adobe PDF file loaded with some of the latest highlights of the new features. And of course, these will all be made available on the website once this update has launched to the public. So let's scroll down here and take a look. So the first brand new feature of this new 3.3 update is going to be Midi Learn. So it's going to have Midi Learn, Mackie Control, and HUI protocol support. So this is pretty cool as it easily allows you to control Cubasis remotely via your external controller. You can enable Midi Learn and simply move a knob or fader on your controller to assign it to a selected parameter. Alright, and the next major feature we have here is Audio Unit Instrument Multi-Out support. And really pretty much every one of these features of this new 3.3 update has been long awaited. Now Audio Unit Multi-Output support lets you quickly assign the single instrument sounds of a drum kit to individual outputs, or allows you to route individual instruments to discrete channels. And of course we're going to be going over every one of these features here inside of Cubasis. This is just a high level idea here. And the third major feature in this brand new update is native sidechain support. With just a few taps now, you can create that classic, warm, pumping sound that we all love when listening to many genres of music. So yet another really cool feature of this new update. And then finally we have the extended MIDI routing. Now I wasn't quite able to make very much use of this feature, and we'll get into why in just a minute. But those are the main new features of the 3.3 update, and of course you're also going to get a bunch of improvements. And I'm sure the full list of updates will be on the website once this patch has fully launched to the public. Alright, and that is pretty much the high level details here, so let's get into Cubasis and start playing with these new features. Alright, now the first new feature that we're going to go over is Midi Learn. To access the Midi Learn menu, we're just going to go into our setup menu here in the top right hand corner, and then we're going to tap on the MIDI page. And on this MIDI page, you will find the Midi Learn section right here in the top right hand corner. And you can always enable and disable the Midi Learn feature by just tapping on the on and off button right here, right to the left of the Learn button. And Cubasis does come with a few Midi Learn presets, which you can find by accessing the preset button right here, which is right next to the Learn button. So once you tap on that, you can see there is a few here, including the Akai MIDI Mix, the Korg Nano Control 2, and the Novation Launch Control XL. Now we actually have a Novation Launch Control XL, so that is really cool to be able to have this preset right here and ready to go. So we don't have to actually fiddle with every individual knob and dial just to get this learned in here. But for now, for demonstration purposes, we're going to leave this closed and not choose a preset and just manually set some of these settings ourselves. So to access the Midi Learn menu, all you have to do is tap on the Learn button here, and anything that you can assign to a MIDI controller will be highlighted in green. As you can see right away, we have the zoom menu, where you can bind your MIDI controller to either zoom in or out. And then of course we have the transport buttons at the very top that are MIDI assignable. And now let's close this menu to find out what else we can MIDI learn. So you can see right here that you can bind going up and down the tracks. And then if we tap our mixer here, you can see that you can pretty much MIDI learn anything, including the mute solo, read write, record, the volume fader, and even the pan fader here at the top. Before we go any further on the MIDI learning, let's go ahead and play with this and MIDI learn a couple of things. So first, let's MIDI learn the zoom. To do that, you simply tap on the green area that you'd like to bind. And what we're going to do is use our launch controller here, which you can see right here. This is our Novation Launch Control, a very simple controller with 16 knobs here and 8 buttons. And just one more time, we do have our zoom in or zoom out actually selected right here in red. So let's tap one of our buttons here. We're going to tap the button all the way to the left. And now as you can see here in the bottom left hand corner, it has been selected to A2. And to cancel that, you can tap the X. And now let's MIDI learn our zoom in button right here. So we'll tap on the plus. And again, assign another button right next to it, right over here. And then now, as you can see at the very bottom, we have this bound as well to A sharp 2. Alright, and let's exit the Midi Learn by tapping the exit at the top. And let's try to zoom in and out. All right, works perfect, just like a charm. I can zoom in and out. So as you can see here, we'll show you on the other camera. So super responsive, nice and simple. All right, now let's go back to our Midi Learn here. Tap on Learn. Let's close out of this, and this time go to our mixer. All right, and let's bind the volume fader here. So we'll tap on the volume. And what we're going to do is we're going to use one of our dials here. And we're going to use the first knob over here on the far left-hand side, right over here. So let's spin that real quick. All right, perfect. Let's take a look on here on the screen, and that has been bound to CC21. And now by moving this knob left and right, we can move the fader up and down. All right, next up, let's try to MIDI learn some effects. So let's close out of this. Let's select a track here, and let's go ahead and insert a new effect. And we'll insert one of Cubasis's internal effects. And all of these will have the ability to MIDI learn. So we can pick any one of these at random. Let's go ahead and pick the reverb. And there you have these 4 knobs that can be bound nice and easy. Let's choose another effect. How about the delay? And as you can see, each one of these faders can be bound to a MIDI controller. Let's pull up a channel strip. There we go. And as you can see, all the individual knobs can be bound, and even the bypass buttons can be bound as well. And that's all there is to it, folks, to binding your MIDI learn commands to your MIDI controllers. Very, very simple, and really not any more difficult than any other app that has a MIDI learn option. Now, as I said earlier, I do own a Launch Control XL, so this is going to be really, really great for me. In fact, I'm going to have to rearrange my desk a little bit so that I can have my faders right here at my fingertips. And I'm just super stoked to finally be able to control Cubasis with a bunch of my MIDI controllers. And the next new feature in this brand new 3.3 update that we're going to show you is the AUV3 multi-out. Yet another long-awaited feature that I'm super excited to check out. So the first thing we're going to do is add a new MIDI track. So we'll close this and tap on Add, and then tap on MIDI. And let's select a new instrument. We're going to go back here to Audio Units, and let's select EG Pulse. But not just the regular EG Pulse, you want to select the EG Pulse multi-output. So we'll tap on that once. Now, when you do have a new multi-output supported plugin, there's going to be a couple of changes in the user interface. So if you do look closely, you'll see that there are some diagonal black lines that are going over the top of this blue color. The next thing to note is the new instrument section on the left-hand side, where before when you tap on an instrument, it would just bring up the instrument. But now if it's a multi-output instrument, it will have additional options here. Now we just added an acoustic piano track so you can see the difference here. This is a regular instrument here where it just says acoustic piano, and when you tap on that, it'll just bring up the instrument. But on the track supporting multi-out, you'll have a new icon over here on the left-hand side. And this icon here illustrates that this is in fact a multi-output instrument. And again, we can now tap on the instrument to reveal an additional menu. Now in this menu, you can choose the output bus if you'd like. Now to the left of that, we have an add track button. And this is a pretty unique, interesting button because this will actually add the maximum amount of tracks as the number of outputs that the app supports. So if the app does only support 8 outputs, then it'll say add 8 tracks here. But in this case, EG Pulse supports 15 additional tracks besides the first one, for a total of 16 different tracks. Now for demonstration purposes, we're not going to add 15 tracks right now. We're going to add a couple one by one so you can see how this works. Now if we do make this app big a little bit and full screen it, we can tap on a few of these buttons here, but only one will work right now because we're only outputting one of these tracks. So for example, if we start trying to tap the kick will work perfectly, right? But if we try to tap the button to the right of it, nothing will happen. In fact, none of these other buttons here will trigger anything right now because they are not going into any other tracks. We only have one track right now, which means only one of these pads will work, which is that kick. So now let's route a couple of additional pads to a couple of additional tracks. So to do that, we'll go to the mixer. And what's really cool is that all of these tracks are automatically routed to subsequential numbers. So for example, the second pad is assigned to the second output, the third pad is assigned to the third output, and so on and so forth. So since these are already technically routed and good to go, we just need to add those tracks. So let's minimize the app and select our multi-output track. And we're going to tap on Add a new MIDI track. Now when you have a multi-output plugin selected and you tap Add a new MIDI track, there's a couple of differences from a regular MIDI track. The first one is the icon over here. You'll notice that there are 2 EG Pulse icons, indicating that this second track is being routed from the original output track here. And you can see right here that when we select this track, it is using the output bus number 2, whereas the first one is using the output bus number 1. And whenever you add a new MIDI track, the output bus will just be one larger than the one previous to it. So we're on number 2, so if we add another one here, it should be number 3. And there you go, we have a third MIDI track that is routed to output bus number 3. Now that we have 3 separate tracks in here, we should be able to use 3 different pads on the app. So let's go back to the pad section here and full screen this. Now before, just the kick pad worked. But now the other 2 pads right to the right of that should work as well. Perfect. Now, as we said, all the other ones still won't work yet until you start adding those tracks, which is why you do have that option to automatically add all the available tracks right here. So let's try that button real quick. Let's delete these other two MIDI tracks, and let's go ahead and tell EG Pulse to add 15 available output tracks. So we'll tap on that button, and there we go. All 15 tracks ready to rock. Actually 16 tracks, 15 plus the original track. Now when we open up our EG Pulse, from tapping on any one of these EG Pulse icons here, we should be able to use every single pad. Alright, every single pad is now ready to go. Now we have each one of these individual pads routed to its own track. And now when you record your MIDI for this app, it will all live inside of one track, but each sound can still be individually affected. So let's show you what we mean by that. So first we'll just record something real quick. Alright, now we just recorded that simple little beat and all of the MIDI is living on this first track. But what if you wanted to add an effect on just the hats, or for example, just the snare? So to do that, we would just find our snare track here. I believe that's track number 7. We can double check here by counting backwards. So we do 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. So that should be, track number 7 should be the snare. So let's minimize that. Track number 7, let's add an effect so we can really hear this. Let's do like a delay, an internal effect. And we'll make it a 16 slap so we can really hear the difference. All right, let's just press it on the pad just to make sure. Yep, that is affecting it. So let's go ahead and hit play. All right, perfect. And as you can hear, only the snare has that delay on it. So now you can easily treat your individual drum tracks without having to separate the MIDI out into each individual track. And the next feature to demonstrate is Cubasis's new native sidechain ability. Now what we have pulled up here is a track that we created on our recent live stream. So please forgive the roughness, it really was created in only about an hour and 15 minutes live on YouTube. But what I wanted to show you here is using Cubasis's sidechain functionality on a couple of these tracks instead of using an alternative third-party sidechain app, as there are a couple of cool ones out there, like for example Blease's Sidekick, and the 4Pockets Sidechain FX app as well. So what I want to do here is just play you a quick snippet so you guys can hear, and then we'll dive into the sidechain. So let's dive into a couple of these tracks that we use the sidechain feature on. And the first was the bass track. Now the first thing that you're going to notice is that any track that is using the new sidechain feature in the Channel Strip plugin will have a couple of new UI changes. And the first thing that you'll notice is this slider here, which allows you to adjust the sidechain input gain. The next thing you'll notice is it actually shows you the name of the sidechain input track. Here you can see it says 4Kick SC. And that is the track up here that we are using to actually sidechain this signal. Now if we tap on the channel strip here, we'll tap on the E. You'll notice that there is a new button over here. And this is the new sidechain button. Once you tap on that, it'll allow you to choose your sidechain input track. Here you can see that we are using the Kick SC track, which stands for Kick Sidechain. So now let's hear what this sounds like. We'll go ahead and solo this track, and we're going to enable and disable this effect. So we'll start with it disabled, and then we'll enable it as it's playing. Alright, so hopefully you can hear that pumping that's happening on this track now. And you can of course adjust all your sidechain settings right here in the noise gate section and in the compression setting as well, because this is a compression effect. When using all these dials together, you can really dial in an exact sidechain effect that you'd like. Now let's hear this demonstrated on one more track here. Let's hear this demonstrated on a melody track. So let's solo that. And once again, we'll start with the effect off and enable it while it's playing. Alright, so there is that pumping effect again. It really does get the head bobbing for sure, which is why it's used in a lot of electronic music, but really it's used for subtle touches in pretty much every genre as well. Now I do want to point something out here. Instead of using our regular kick track, we are using a separate kick sidechain track, and there's a reason for that. And that is because if you use just your regular kick track and you don't have any actual kicks yet, the signal itself will be way turned down. So let's look at our track here real quick, our sidechain track. You can see that is this track right here. And what we do is we keep this track muted so that it's not actually audible within the song, but it is still sending a signal to our other tracks so that we can still get that pumping effect. Now I did want to point out a quick bug here. So what we'll do is we'll disable the channel strip and we're going to add another effect because there are a bunch of different apps that does support this sidechain effect. And one of those apps is from FabFilter, and that is the Pro C. And you'll notice that there is this sidechain button again. And this sidechain button will only appear if the actual app supports this. Now here's the problem. If we tap on this, you can see that the menu is now hidden behind the effect. So we can't actually see the menu, therefore we can't actually assign this track to any other sidechain track. And I'm sure that's a bug that'll get fixed pretty quick. Again, this is a beta version and not the final one that will release on May 4th. So for now, if you do want to use this new sidechain feature, you are relegated to just the channel strip effect plugin. Now the final part of this video was to demonstrate the new extended MIDI routing. However, that has a bug that's very similar to the sidechain bug, and that is simply a user interface bug. So that new extended MIDI routing feature is right here where it says M and A. And when you tap on that, again the menu is now hidden behind the effect. And this is not just for third-party effects either. If we pull up a different effect that's actually native to Cubasis, let's tap on the effect, go to Audio Units, and go to the Waves plugins, and we'll tap on the Waves tune. And you can see here too that when we tap on that menu, it is behind the effect so that we can't actually use this new feature. But again, I'm sure that this will be fixed very shortly, probably by the time this releases. But if not, I'm sure it'll be fixed soon after that. So I did want to make you guys aware of this bug. But that really is about it, folks. That is all the new features. Hopefully we did demonstrate them good enough for you so you can really get a good idea of how they work. And of course, as always, if you do have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments below or hit us up on any one of our socials. And of course, stay tuned for more videos. We have new live streams every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we release brand new videos every single Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, everybody, please keep talking music. We'll see you later.